going to that facility for all the people that want to go swim there. I think it's more than just your lot.
Well, from
Jim?
1937 to 2004, it wasn't an issue, and it has been utilized by the community. And that's one of the findings that was made in the study. And yes, South Street goes and it intersects with West Street, which goes all the way back to where Hospital Lane is, which comes back to by Diamond View School and Richmond Road. So there is plenty of circulation and activity. In fact, that's the same road you use to access Hoboken. When you go up to the end of South Street, you get on.
You know, it's the type of road that it is.
Huh?
It's the type, you know, the type of road. You're going to have to widen it. You're going to have to realign
No,
it.
there's no need for any widening or anything for South Street to get to that property.
If I'm thinking about the right spot, I'm just trying to think of how I can visualize it.
I recommend you go out and drive
Yeah,
around and look for yourself. I think you'll find.
Well, even if you just drove Richmond Road, I mean, if you're going to have an excess amount of circulation for a recreation area, for the swimming pool, you're going to have a lot more traffic count and everything else.
It's the same circulation that was there for the Roosevelt.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're basically recreating what had been there from 1937 to 2004. So, and that was one of the findings is, to relocate the facility to a new site, let's say to Mesa Street, which was high on the list for consideration. And that would have to be rezoned because the city did not accede to the county's request to keeping it as a public use parcel. And so the residential neighborhoods that are immediately adjoining the Mesa Street property would probably have an issue. And Mesa Street, in terms of, so the very issues that you're talking about may very well pertain to a new site, like say Mesa Street was considered, but it was ruled or determined as not being an issue with this site because of the historic utilization for many decades. So we're not doing something new at this site that hasn't already been done for a long period of time, and the zoning and everything else is already in place for that.
Thank you.
And that was really one of the key advantages that allowed this site to remain in contention. Without that, I don't think this site would probably have been as highly rated.
All right, Tony?
You've addressed Mel's parking issues with the line adjustment. The county's maintained a vehicle impound on that site for at least 40 years that I'm aware of. Does the county have another location for vehicle impound at this time? Because again, you're talking about vehicle parking, if you will, long-term.
That's a question the sheriff could answer. I think he's been impounding, my impression is over on the property there.
I know they've added some extra vehicles to this site here just recently.
Yeah, you can see from the aerial, there's half a dozen vehicles on
Defense line.
somewhere in this area.
Right.
I'm not sure those are sheriff or if they're like an indigent situation.
I know some of those vehicles have been there over 20 years.
One of them belongs to Benjamin Y. Silva.
Well, I think that's an issue that the sheriff can deal with in terms of, he's using that site now because he can, because no one else is using it. If there's a new use that's going to utilize that, I don't think the fact that the sheriff may or may not decide to impound a car here is a deal breaker.
Just a question. The other one I have is, on either of the two options that take all but the whole site, including the old Roosevelt pool site, what would be your total acreage?
From here over would be 2.05.
From the fence,
From my recommendation over, if you add another 40 feet, 40 times 256, that is another quarter acre maybe.
okay, so what do you end up on with the total?
It'll be somewhere, something less than 2.5 acres.
Okay.
Now, I think important to note is the city owns a triangular piece of property here that fronts on South Street, right in front of the old pool.
Actually own it.
They own it. They're currently storing cinders and other materials on it. I personally think that, the county's contributing this part. I don't think that's much to ask to have the city
That has
contribute,
already been communicated to the chief.
which would add another quarter acre or something.
They're planning on relocating the small stockpile they have there. They actually are using the parking lot of the pool big cinder pile that they're gonna be relocating.
My conversation with the city administrator were that they were not committed to
Well,
providing that for the pool.
he communicated to the JPA board last Tuesday that the city would begin the process of making that that odd-shaped parcel as part of the pool property, so. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna take that, because it's kind of like in front of, it'd be like having, building your facility, and have somebody squat right in front of you, so it's something that we would need, if nothing else, for appearance purposes.
So that would add to the overall acreage.
Okay, so you're looking at, again, the question is counting the old Roosevelt pool site, and I would ask that the supervisors, and an eighth condition, if you would, Jim, of acquisition of the old site from Susanville School District, okay, prior to making their decision on this one, or in conjunction with it, because the way I'm understanding, you can't create a parcel with a lot line adjustment, okay? You can create a parcel by doing an addition to a pre-existing deeded piece of property by adjusting the lot line, correct?
Well, that's normally true of a private party. The city and county do enjoy some exemptions to CEQA, and I don't want to.
Oh, no, it's not a CEQA consideration.
And to the MAP Act.
It's just a MAP Act.
And to the MAP Act.
Okay.
And so, without consulting with Maury, I wouldn't want to say that there may be some method by which the county or city can create parcels.
Oh, but would the county want to?
I
mean, they go together.
The intent of the process that was defined for the JPA board is that we would take possession and have the title to the old pool parcel from the elementary school district. Once we have that, then we would then petition to the county to adjust the lot line, remove the lot line. So basically, that's how you create your parcel. You don't acquire this and acquire that and then merge the two together. And the first step would be, and that's what's going to be on the agenda next week at the pool board, is basically they're working on the language for the quitclaim deed to take place between the elementary school board property and to the JPA board. And that will transfer the property to us. So we would have that theoretically before the month is over with. That then opens the door, if the board acts today, to consider it, to begin the process of negotiating where to adjust that lot line. At some future point, the city parcel, that little sliver triangle to the north, would also be acquired through whatever process the city uses for adjusting the lot line.
Could be done through the same.
Yeah, same thing. And so the ultimate intent is when we're done, we're going to have one single parcel that will be basically the footprint to start building a pool. And with the intent that, if the city was to vacate, the city shop area, at some point relocate that, include that for future expansion, as well as anything to the east on the balance of the Roosevelt School property. That's why I think it's important in the condition that we have, item 7, is to include that as an option, because I think that's something that's going to be important to the JPA board as time goes on. I mean, Larry and I won't be there, but at some point somebody's going to be there, and that's going to be of important interest.
Thanks, Tony. Is there anywhere else for public comment? Okay. Did you make a motion, Jim?
No, I haven't, but I was waiting to see how the rest of the board feels. I know how Aaron feels, but that's okay.
Well, there's almost another thing. I thought we just use Richard's recommendation, and then if the city donates their little corner over there to the JPA, well, then we can consider going out and getting another accreditation.
Well, I think you can do that, but I think the reason for that is that the prime location on the soon-to-be configured parcel is basically the flatness and the relative lack of, other than the fact you've got cars parked there, you don't have structures and whatever, you don't have oil tanks and the like, is that the bulk of the pool will be more on the county side of the line rather than on the old pool parcel side of the line. And it's just physically, we can build a pool right up to that, I guess would be the new property line that would be established on the west side of the gate rather than the east side. I just think it would be nicer to have a little bit of room to be able to site that, because we're going to be working with the design consultant on how to configure and how to locate that. And, that's going to be important. That's why I think having that availability is key.
It still leaves 47 parking.
Oh, yeah, of the,
And how many people go there?
How hard is it to make another lot line adjustment?
it's not hard at all.
It would be, it wouldn't be, again, it wouldn't be the county lot line adjustment process because it's in the city, but I don't think it's a major undertaking.
So you could do one, and then a week later come back and adjust it again?
There's a significant amount of traffic there now, but Eric already has a plan, and our fiscal unit will be moving over to Brashear, and the intake staff will be moving to 1600 Chestnut, or 1616 Chestnut at the Career Network. So that is going to cut the traffic to that building, but the important thing to remember that, I think Richard's point is that that's a 14,000 square foot building. If the county decides to sell it and someone wants to buy it, and you cut it down to only 47 parking spots, that could be a detriment to the sale.
Jeez,
Unless-
now we're like talking hypotheticals.
Yes, well, I mean, if they, I would say I would see that would be an issue for a future owner, but you also have a fairly large acreage out in front of the building that's right now lawn and trees, and so whatever future development, I mean, unless you want to preserve that. So there's plenty of opportunity for the utilization of additional ground there if that became an issue for a non-public entity acquiring the property. So that is, it's all hypothetical now.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we use option 3, and we keep that there until we get a site plan, and then if we need to make adjustments from there, we can bring it back there. That would be
So
my
what,
motion.
so with not the parking that the JPA,
No, just whatever Richard has drawn out
Leave,
here.
leave the boundary line on the west side of the gate rather than the east side of the gate.
which is what not what.
That's Richard, no, I think the JPA would prefer to be on the east side of the gate.
That's my motion, and then if we have to get a site plan, if it comes back where you need to move over, you can make that for reconsideration. That's my.
Scrooge. I should have took away our 20 grand appropriation for the swimming pool.
If that dies from lack of a Senate, I'll be happy to make another motion.
Do we have a sand timer? Going once, going twice. All right. Sorry.
That's all
Take
right.
any takers.
I would, Mr. Chairman, move that we negotiate with the JP, the pool authority, the JPA board to cede that portion of the Roosevelt School property using the east boundary of the gate as the defining line for the lot line adjustment. Predicated on
Okay,
the six
so
site.
slow down, slow down, slow down. The east boundary and the gate, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the north gate, which is.
North gate, okay.
The east side or the west side or the south.
Okay, so we've got the east boundary of the north gate. Okay,
Accepting the 6 recommendation for conditions and adding a 7th condition that we offer a first right of refusal for future acquisition of the JPA of the balance of the parcel.
And we charge Aaron double to go swim.
So, you can leave that house out there, sheriff's building.
Yeah, and it would include defining the, well, that's Richard's proposal. Basically, it's Richard's proposal, except moving that boundary line how many ever feet to the east. And it would leave the option, yeah, of course.
Now, did we ascertain whether to give the GPA the first right of refusal?
That was included.
I included that as a set of
Now,
items.
where are we?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know whether we
Well-
can do that or not. I don't.
Well, I tell you what, since that is another one of those hypotheticals
Yeah.
for 20 years, I'll remove that as
Yeah.
part of the motion, and that's something that they want to ask us for.
Let's make the motion stand, yeah.
Okay, so are we taking out the seventh
Yeah,
condition?
taking out the seventh condition, eliminate that.
Yeah, we'll make it work. Come on, Bob.
Working on
Okay, I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
No,
Hold the book.
unless the public has something to add.
I just have one comment. I think I understand the answer, but it's my understanding that any unforeseen costs of this transfer would be borne by the JPA,
Right.
not the
Yes.
county. I just
Yes.
have to make sure that.
We're making the property available to it at no cost, so any cost that is incurred has to be borne by theirs.
Did you get that?
I thought that was one of your 6 conditions.
Not specifically.
Alrighty, so,
I got one other question. This would go to the city planning commission, a slight line adjustment, or the county?
It's within the city limits.
They would handle it, yes. And the city administrator has already indicated that whatever fees they charge for doing that would be waived, so.
I do think there are some questions whether or not the MAP Act applies in the case of public property, but we can sort that out.
We'll get to the bottom of that.
alright. So, Madam Clerk, poll the vote.
Supervisor Chapman?
Right.
Supervisor Alba?
No.
Supervisor Kyle?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye, a little more forceful than.
Supervisor Watson?
I choked on that, yeah. But I did get it out.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
I'm getting it right through. I need water.
Go swimming.
I need water. Larry fixed that drinking fountain out there, wouldn't it?
Well, I guarantee you guys, there's a lot that will happen
Oh, there's-
before this even comes to fruition. So this may be
Futile exercise.
a futile exercise, yes. Well, no, I'm telling you, there's forces out there want to blow the whole thing up, so we'll see. At this point, we're full speed ahead.
H5.
The report of the autopsy report, and it's been affectionately referred to, is just included for your information.